Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Today I will share with you 7 things you should never do while fasting. Let's begin. Eating and drinking. At the heart of fasting lies the fundamental principle of abstaining from all forms of nourishment, whether solid or liquid, during the prescribed fasting hours. This encompasses a wide spectrum of edibles and potables, including but not limited to meals, snacks, beverages, and even the smallest morsel or sip that may pass through the lips. The prohibition extends beyond traditional ingestion, encompassing anything that enters the body through the mouth or nose, such as chewing gum, inhaling food particles, or even accidentally swallowing minuscule objects. This comprehensive restriction underscores the importance of maintaining a state of complete abstinence from all forms of sustenance, irrespective of their nature or quantity. Even the inadvertent consumption of seemingly innocuous substances, such as a speck of dust or a small pebble, carries the potential to nullify the fast, necessitating its expiation and restitution to uphold the sanctity of the fasting experience. Thus, adherents are called upon to exercise utmost vigilance and mindfulness in safeguarding against any inadvertent breach of this fundamental tenet, thereby preserving the integrity and spiritual significance of their fasting observance. Substances substituting food and drink. The concept of fasting transcends mere refraining from physical consumption. It encompasses a profound abstinence from anything that sustains the body's vital functions. This includes substances that serve as alternative sources of nourishment, sustaining bodily well-being through means other than traditional ingestion. Among these are intravenous IV fluids, medications, and medical treatments designed to maintain physiological equilibrium and alleviate ailments. Despite their indispensable role in preserving health and well-being, the consumption of such substances during fasting hours poses a moral and spiritual dilemma for devout practitioners. While the administration of IV fluids, medications, or medical treatments may be deemed necessary to address health concerns or alleviate discomfort, their ingestion during fasting hours presents a paradoxical challenge to the sanctity of the fasting experience. On one hand, adherents are encouraged to prioritize their health and well-being, acknowledging the importance of seeking medical assistance when warranted. On the other hand, the consumption of substances that mimic the role of food and drink during fasting hours introduces a complex ethical dimension, potentially undermining the spiritual purity and discipline sought through fasting. In navigating this ethical conundrum, individuals are compelled to exercise discernment and seek guidance from religious authorities to determine the permissibility of consuming such substances during fasting hours. While the overarching principle dictates the preservation of fast sanctity and integrity, allowances may be made in cases of medical necessity or dire circumstances where abstention could jeopardize one's health or well-being. Nonetheless, it remains incumbent upon practitioners to approach such decisions with conscientiousness and reverence, ensuring that their actions align with the principles of spiritual devotion and self-discipline inherent in the fasting tradition. Thus, the consumption of substances substituting food and drink during fasting hours necessitates careful consideration and consultation, balancing the imperatives of physical health and the sanctity of the fasting experience. Intentional vomiting. Within the framework of fasting, intentional vomiting stands as a stark deviation from the ethos of self-discipline and spiritual refinement that underpins the sacred practice, defined as the deliberate expulsion of stomach contents, whether prompted by overindulgence, discomfort, or other motives. Intentional vomiting represents a flagrant breach of the sanctity of fasting hours. At its core, fasting is not merely a physical abstention from food and drink. It is a holistic endeavor encompassing spiritual reflection, self-restraint, and ethical conduct. Intentional vomiting disrupts this delicate equilibrium, subverting the profound introspection and self-mastery sought during fasting periods. By succumbing to the urge to purge one's stomach deliberately, individuals relinquish the opportunity for inner transformation and spiritual growth afforded by the fasting experience. Moreover, intentional vomiting engenders a rupture in the ethical fabric of fasting, betraying a lack of reverence for the solemnity of the occasion. Rather than embracing the discipline and restraint demanded by fasting, those who resort to intentional vomiting demonstrate a disregard for the foundational principles of self-control and moderation upheld by religious teachings. However, amidst the condemnation of intentional vomiting, it is imperative to discern between deliberate and unintentional instances of regurgitation. While the former constitutes a clear violation of fasting regulations, the latter, characterized by involuntary or uncontrollable vomiting, does not impugn the validity of the fast. Recognizing this distinction underscores the nuanced approach required in adjudicating matters of fasting observance, wherein intent and volition play a pivotal role in determining culpability. In essence, intentional vomiting during fasting hours represents not only a physical transgression, but also a spiritual and ethical lapse. By undermining the core principles of self-discipline, moderation, and reverence, intentional vomiting compromises the integrity of the fasting experience, detracting from its transformative potential and spiritual significance. As such, adherents are enjoined to eschew this act of defiance and uphold the sanctity of fasting through unwavering commitment to its noble ideals. Cupping. Cupping, an ancient therapeutic modality rooted in traditional medicine, has garnered both acclaim and controversy within the realm of fasting observance. This practice entails the application of suction cup to the skin, creating a vacuum that purportedly draws out impurities, toxins, and stagnant blood from deep within the body. While a lot of its potential health benefits and therapeutic efficacy, particularly in alleviating musculoskeletal pain, promoting circulation, and detoxifying the body, cupping assumes a nuanced significance when practiced during fasting hours. Amidst the tapestry of religious teachings and scholarly interpretations, cupping emerges as a continuous issue that prompts divergent opinions and varying schools of thought. While some proponents advocate for its permissibility and even endorse its therapeutic utility as complementary to fasting, others approach cupping with caution, emphasizing its potential to disrupt the sanctity and integrity of the fasting experience. Central to debate surrounding cupping during fasting is the underlying concern regarding its impact on the body's physiological state and the spiritual discipline inherent in fasting. By inducing alterations in blood circulation, tissue integrity, and bodily equilibrium, cupping may be perceived as contravening the ethos of self-restraint and moderation that fasting seeks to cultivate. Moreover, the physical invasiveness of cupping, characterized by the application of suction cup and the manipulation of bodily tissues, raises questions regarding its compatibility with the spiritual purity and consecration associated with fasting. In navigating this ethical labyrinth, scholars and practitioners grapple with the delicate balance between therapeutic necessity and religious observance, while acknowledging the potential benefits of cupping in addressing ailments and promoting holistic well-being. The prevailing consensus tends to err on the side of caution, advising against this practice during fasting hours. This precautionary stance reflects a commitment to upholding the sanctity of the fasting experience and preserving its transformative potential, unencumbered by external interventions that may compromise its integrity. Nevertheless, the discourse surrounding cupping underscores the complexity inherent in reconciling religious precepts with contemporary medical practices. As individuals seek to navigate the intricate interplay between tradition and innovation, they are called upon to exercise discernment, humility, and reverence in their approach to matters of health and spirituality. Ultimately, whether one chooses to embrace or abstain from cupping during fasting hours, the guiding imperative remains the preservation of spiritual integrity and the pursuit of holistic well-being in harmony with divine guidance. Intentional ejaculation. Intentional ejaculation during fasting hours stands as a solemn admonition against the indulgence of base desires and the erosion of spiritual sanctity. Defined as deliberate discharge of seminal fluid prompted by arousal, visual stimuli, impure thoughts, or the act of masturbation, it represents a profound departure from the ethical and moral imperatives inherent in fasting. Unlike its nocturnal counterpart, characterized by involuntary emissions during sleep, intentional ejaculation while awake constitutes a conscious transgression against the principles of self-restraint and moral integrity espoused by fasting. By succumbing to carnal impulses and gratification, individuals forfeit the sacred space of fasting, where spiritual elevation and transcendence beckon. At the heart of fasting lies the cultivation of self-discipline, restraint, and spiritual refinement. Through the denial of physical appetites and the purification of the soul, fasting serves as a conduit for spiritual awakening and moral regeneration. Intentional ejaculation, however, disrupts this delicate balance, shattering the tranquility of the fasting state and tarnishing its inherent sanctity. Moreover, intentional ejaculation engenders a rupture in the fabric of moral consciousness, betraying a lack of reverence for the divine injunctions that govern human behavior. By prioritizing momentary gratification over spiritual elevation, individuals forsake the sacred covenant of fasting, severing the tether that binds them to the transcendent realm. In confronting the moral quandary posed by intentional ejaculation, adherents are called upon to exercise vigilance, self-restraint, and ethical discernment. Through the cultivation of mindfulness and spiritual awareness, individuals can safeguard the sanctity of their fasting experience, fortifying themselves against the allure of base desires and carnal temptations. Ultimately, intentional ejaculation during fasting hours serves as a poignant reminder of the moral imperative to uphold ethical integrity and spiritual purity. By resisting the pull of carnal impulses and adhering to the noble virtues of self-restraint and moral rectitude, individuals affirm their commitment to the timeless ideals of spiritual enlightenment and moral excellence embodied by fasting. Intercourse during fasting. Engaging in sexual intercourse during fasting hours stands as one of the gravest transgressions against the sacred observance of fasting. Beyond the mere physical act itself, which flagrantly violates the sanctity of fasting, intercourse represents a profound departure from the spiritual devotion and ascetic discipline that fasting embodies. At its essence, fasting serves as a transformative journey of self-discovery, spiritual renewal, and moral refinement. It beckons adherents to transcend the realm of worldly desires and carnal temptations, ascending to higher spiritual planes through acts of self-denial and moral rectitude. In this hallowed space of spiritual sanctity, the indulgence in sexual activity during fasting hours constitutes a jarring discordance, disrupting the ethereal harmony of the fasting experience. Moreover, the prohibition against intercourse during fasting underscores the paramount importance of maintaining a state of spiritual purity and devotion throughout the sacred period of abstention. By refraining from physical intimacy and marital relations during fasting hours, adherents reaffirm their commitment to the noble ideals of chastity, temperance, and moral integrity that fasting seeks to cultivate. Beyond its theological implications, the prohibition against intercourse during fasting carries profound ethical and moral significance. It serves as a testament to the sacred bond of marital commitment, honoring the sanctity of the marital union and preserving its integrity within the sacred framework of fasting. In confronting the moral dilemma posed by the prohibition against intercourse during fasting, adherents are called upon to exercise profound discernment, ethical responsibility, and spiritual mindfulness. By resisting the allure of physical gratification and adhering steadfastly to the ethical imperatives of fasting, individuals affirm their dedication to the timeless principles of spiritual purity, moral rectitude, and unwavering devotion that define the essence of fasting. Ultimately, the prohibition against intercourse during fasting serves as a poignant reminder of the sacred covenant between humanity and the divine, embodying the eternal quest for spiritual enlightenment, moral excellence, and transcendence over earthly desires. Through adherence to the ethical precepts of fasting and the cultivation of spiritual discipline, adherents embark upon a transformative journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening, emerging renewed and sanctified by the profound mysteries of fasting. Menstruation and postnatal bleeding during fasting. The occurrence of biological processes such as menstruation and postnatal bleeding presents a unique challenge within the framework of fasting observance, constituting significant exceptions to the established regulations governing fasting practice. Irrespective of when they manifest during the fasting day, these natural phenomena hold the power to render fasting invalid, transcending individual volition and exerting profound implications on the spiritual and ritualistic dimensions of fasting. Menstruation and postnatal bleeding, while inherent to the physiological rhythms of the human body, assume symbolic significance within the context of religious observance. These bodily processes symbolize a state of ritual impurity, which according to religious teachings necessitates temporary abstention from acts of worship, including fasting. Despite their involuntary nature, menstruation and postnatal bleeding carry implications that extend beyond the realm of physicality, penetrating the spiritual and ritualistic domains of religious practice. The prohibition against fasting during menstruation and postnatal bleeding underscores the imperative of maintaining spiritual purity and reverence within the sacred space of fasting. By refraining from fasting during periods of menstrual or postnatal bleeding, individuals honor the sanctity of the fasting experience, acknowledging the inherent interplay between physicality and spirituality in matters of religious observance. In confronting the challenges posed by menstruation and postnatal bleeding during fasting, individuals are called upon to navigate the delicate balance between religious injunctions and physiological realities. While the cessation of fasting during these periods may pose logistical challenges and disrupt the rhythm of fasting observance, it is imperative to prioritize spiritual integrity and adherence to religious principles above all else. Moreover, the recognition of menstruation and postnatal bleeding as exceptions to fasting regulation serves as a testament to the inclusive and compassionate nature of religious teachings. By accommodating the unique physiological needs and experiences of individuals, religious traditions affirm the inherent dignity and worth of every human being, fostering a sense of belonging and acceptance within the community of believers. Ultimately, the recognition of menstruation and postnatal bleeding as exceptions to fasting regulations underscores the dynamic interplay between religious principles and human experience. By honoring the sanctity of these natural phenomena and refraining from fasting until their cessation, individuals affirm their commitment to spiritual purity, ethical responsibility, and reverence for the divine within the sacred space of fasting observance. Assalamu alaikum.